Why do you look different?
It looks like. Oh, what?
You look
He
different.
trimmed his beard.
You didn't.
Yeah, my wife had about the same response as you.
She's like,
Stop
don't
it.
ever cut it that short again.
Stop trimming your beard.
Hey, y'all.
I've been trying to figure this out for a few days. I'm like, something's just dipped. Something's happened. I just don't know
He's
what
getting
it
a
is.
summer haircut going.
You know, it's like usually there's a lot of glory around you, and all of a sudden it's just like
It's kind
different.
of tapered. The glory's tapered.
I was just I started to feel like Mountain Man. Right?
My wife is like really funny about me trimming my beard.
She don't like it either, but I don't do like daily trims.
Okay.
I don't do that, so I don't got time for that. I have a beard so that I don't have to trim it.
Yep, that's right.
So I just let it go.
Yep.
And then when it's like, it looks kind of wild, then I just
reset.
I just cut it way down again.
I don't think I trust guys that do daily trims on their beard.
For real.
Something's
For
wrong
real.
with that.
There's something wrong with you. If
He's
you're
like
doing daily
Bodie and his
trims.
manicures.
You can do it.
No, he does. Bodie does pedicures. That bro.
He said
He does-
said manicure.
he does
didn't
both.
He?
Oh, maybe
He does
both.
Yeah.
Because you guys got an argument, and Bodie's like, it's a manicure.
Because he does both because he's fighting, so he doesn't want to scratch his opponents. But I scratch the heck out of you. I don't care.
And I still don't think you should call it a manicure or a pedicure.
Call it a Vodicure.
Come up with something else. Like whatever, like wrestling.
Vodicure. We can call it Vodicure.
Pre-fight.
How about just
trim.
grooming?
Yeah.
I groom myself.
Yeah, man groom or something. I don't know.
That's good. All right. Hey, y'all, welcome to Cross Politics. We are live right now, so
That
make
was
sure
the
you share
worst
the show.
intro I think we've
Pastor
done.
Toby
No,
Chalk
it was
Knox. I'm the water boy. I'm going to keep pushing through this. Hey, guys, our magazine is going to be released this next couple weeks. It's going to be shipped out. So what you need to do, for those who've currently subscribed, you got to log into your account, make sure your address is updated.
Isn't this one already shipped out?
That one's already shipped out.
that's
I don't
the
have
old one.
I don't have the cover for the new one yet.
Okay.
We should have it this week.
Okay.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And
no one knows what the new magazine
log
looks
back into your account to make sure you got the correct physical address, so you get your magazine. We've had a couple mistakes this last go around. Some of it was our fault. Some of it was your fault. So make sure you log in and correct the address. Hey, I'm not
So much for the customer's always right.
Well, I mean, you put in the wrong address. Put in the wrong address. You know,
I
is what
get
it
it.
is.
Make sure we're going to send it to the right place.
Yeah, and then months later, they're like, "Oh, okay, all right." So, if you haven't subscribed, man, subscribe now. Jump right into this edition or this subscription right now. You'll get the next magazine coming out in the next couple of weeks, and you'll get 3 after that. So 4 magazines
total
for every
annual
quarter, annual subscription and everything. Yeah. So we're really excited about that magazine. Lastly, our conference in Tennessee is heating up. We should have a registration page open in the next 2 weeks. And so be looking for that. It's going to go fast. We're really excited about all those who are going to be speaking, and we got a number of surprise fun stuff as always at our Nashville. It's going to be in Lebanon, Tennessee, in the Nashville area. You like that? That's good.
It's not Hamas.
That was good. No, did you see the feedback I got from my daily news brief on that?
Did you tell everybody to share the show?
Did you say Hamas or did you say Hamas?
I said Hamas, and then at one point I said Hamas, and then I said you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm a Texan trying to read Arabic.
Hamas.
Dude, like that's been a thing in the news forever.
I know.
You know.
Since before you were born.
It was there was more going on. But anyways, it was a
more
long day.
There was more going on.
It was a long day.
This show is brought to you by Logos Online. Logos Online School provides a Christ-centered classical education for grades 7 through 12 that is both affordable and accredited. Their mission is to support parents as they raise their children in the nurture and admonition of Jesus. Classes meet online daily, Monday through Thursday, with outstanding teachers who take a personal interest in your student. And unlike other programs, there are no extra fees for diploma students and honors classes. Registration is open for fall classes now. Actually, my brother and my sister and my brother-in-law all teach for Logos Online School.
That's a good lineup.
Nice.
Yeah, Christian and classical, accredited and affordable. Go to logosonlineschool.com. Find out more. Register today.
Your mom's streaming, Gabe.
Hey,
Mama Ranch.
Hey,
How you
Mama.
doing? So I just
Always
want to. We talk about this a lot. I just want to say it again one more time for people to know. If you don't know, one of the best ways that you can support Cross Politic is hitting the share button, hitting the like button.
How much does that cost?
That's actually
free.
free.
Oh,
yeah,
free.
you know.
Okay.
But that helps us get out there, and it's just a simple thing to do. It's actually a form of currency. People don't understand that. Hitting the share button is so simple. Hit the share button.
It's like Bitcoin.
Well, okay. Yes. Daniel Aaron Spratt, he's watching. So I'm going to watch Facebook.
Okay.
You stay on YouTube.
I'll get on YouTube.
And that way, if somebody asks a question or engages, we can see what's going on. We don't ever really pay attention to our streaming. I want to do a better job of that. Maybe get the people to share.
It's hard.
The show
It's hard to think
more.
about more than one thing at a time.
It is.
Yeah, but
It really
we're trying.
is.
We're trying.
We're trying to do better.
You know, it'd be really fun if like we have Ian or somebody like, hey, there's a question. Ian's like, no, I'm not
Like,
doing
no,
it.
that's not my job at all. So
Okay.
I don't know if you guys kind of been paying attention to the news recently, but there's been kind of a lot of chatter about transgender.
Lots of chatter.
Lots of chatter about it. 60 Minutes just recently did a whole hour long.
No, it wasn't an
show.
hour long
One
show.
hour long?
No. Leslie Stahl did a segment on 60 Minutes with it. So it was in the first segment on 60 Minutes, which is usually the most powerful segment.
All right.
On kind of detransitioning.
Yeah.
And apparently detransitioning is a curse word
Yeah.
for the leftists.
So going back to
From-
to the biological sex that God created you as.
Yes.
That's right.
So they did a segment on that.
Yep.
Because she was over 18 and didn't need parental consent, she says she merely signed an informed consent form at a clinic and got hormone shots.
They asked me, so why do you want to go on testosterone? And I said, well, being a woman just isn't working for me anymore. And they said, okay.
So that was that. You got your prescription for testosterone.
Yep.
Just 4 months after she started testosterone, she says she was approved for a mastectomy, what's called top surgery, that she told us was traumatic. You know, I'm kind of surprised because based on everything you've said up to now, I would have thought you'd have a great sense of relief.
I started to have a really disturbing sense that like a part of my body was missing, almost a ghost limb feeling about being like, there's something that should be there. And the feeling really surprised me, but it was really hard to deny.
And so she detransitioned by going off testosterone and then went back to the clinic. And she says complained to the doctor that the process didn't follow the WPATH guidelines.
I can't believe that I transitioned and detransitioned, including hormones and surgery in the course of like less than 1 year. It's completely crazy.
Wow. So I was watching this recently, and I can't remember when it came out a couple days ago, and I was Sunday. I was surprised when I was watching. I was literally 5 minutes in. I'm like, wait,
is this legal?
Yes. You're allowed to say something bad about the trans gods?
Yeah.
And so Leslie Stahl's been catching some heat, particularly from GLAAD, about this whole, because she's actually pointing out the fact that it's very simple and without hardly any real sort of science behind why they're doing this or questioning the people. Like,
Well, they aren't even following their own guidelines, as she points it out. They're historical medical guidelines. They aren't even following.
What are the guidelines where they're not following?
I don't know, but she referenced they didn't even follow their own guidelines.
Well, there's another video we'll play too where he says the same thing.
We'll
But
get there,
it's interesting. We should know, though, they're not going to follow their own guidelines. Look at COVID. Like, the governments, they don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, they're not following God's guidelines.
Yeah, first of all.
Yeah.
Like if you reject the highest standard and say we can decide what's male and female. We can make this up as we go along. Why are they going to follow their own man-made guidelines?
Yeah. But I was surprised that this was even allowed to come out.
I know. No, I hear you.
And was it ABC? I think that.
No, this is CBS.
CBS. I'm sorry, CBS.
But no, they're blaspheming the gods right here.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
They're saying the gods might be wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
The gods might be crazy.
Well, and then there's this. This guy came on Tucker Carlson, and there's a lot of interesting stuff here.
Bill Burley.
I had gender dysphoria as a child, and I tried to deal with it, but I had a breakdown when I was in college. When in college, I sought help, and found a gender therapist. I actually spent 5 years in therapy trying to sort through and figure out what's going on, why I had this thought that God made a mistake, I was a girl. But the books I've read, the journal articles I read, they all said that I had to transform my body to match my mind for me to be happy. I was getting out of sorts and I wanted to find happiness, so eventually I believed those articles. I told my therapist I wanted to transition, and I went through all of the procedures, the surgeries, the documentation changes to be able to present as female. Tucker, the first surgery I went through was a male to female surgery where they did a penile inversion and also a brow shave and an Adam's apple shave. And that surgery was horrific. Coming out of that surgery, I had a significant amount of bleeding, and they tried to control the bleeding by shoving more gauze into my new man-made female genitalia and putting a sandbag on my abdomen. My 2-week stay in the hospital turned into a 3-week stay because of that. And so my experience was really bad. Along the way, I tried to do more surgeries to get the connection between my mind and my body to eventually connect, and it never did happen. All of that I read, everything that I learned was a lie. And I eventually transitioned back to male.
There's a lot there.
Wow.
But just on the scientific side of things.
Before you say that, things might get a little interesting in the next part of this conversation. So if you have little ones, you might not want them in the room. Just want to give you that warning ahead of now, because I want to talk about the penal inversion a little bit. So, but go ahead, just to give that warning.
And basically, what he's describing there is they're creating a flesh wound.
Right.
That's they're
a cavity. Yeah.
A cavity to act like or look like or synthesize like a female vagina.
Yeah.
And it's a flesh wound, and they there's a lot of medical videos that kind of model this stuff that's going on there, but it's significant malpractice.
We call it malpractice.
Malpractice.
Yeah.
It's malpractice. Like in this. It's really malpractice in all the ways.
This is toxic masculinity.
They're disobeying, they're abandoning the Hippocratic Oath,
right?
And and harming this man,
or they're taking a perfectly good functioning organ,
and giving him a flesh wound. Literally giving him a flesh wound.
The God made, and they're mutilating it, and creating now a wound,
and then you're trying to make this wound heal in a way that it doesn't want to heal.
Right. It doesn't really heal.
It doesn't. I don't even know if it really heals.
Well, and there's a whole area of medicine actually called genetic medicine, because the difference in genes between a male and
it's called
female,
a vaccine right now in our modern times.
Well,
we call that.
No, but there's a whole area of genetic medicine that doctors know about where it actually matters. Your body responds differently to different procedures
and medications,
and drug loads and all the rest of it because of how God made you.
That's right.
And now you're trying to pretend that this person you give them a female organ that their body was never designed to make.
That's right.
And then there's a wound there, and the body's like trying to figure, like, what do I do with this thing?
So
it won't heal because that's not how. At least won't fully heal.
Yeah, it won't fully heal. So if you thought you had a problem before,
right
now, there's so many things I want to say about this. They just came out with the Lego thing. We talked about that a little bit. The Legos.
The Legos.
You talked on your daily news brief.
Daily news brief. Which if you don't get the daily news brief, it's so good.
I'm glad that your daily news brief felt like we were all there, though.
Yeah, it did. When I do it, I'm in a room with friends.
Got friend this for you.
No, you guys were there.
Whenever he's recording at this table, it's like we're all here in spirit.
So Lego just came out with a new set that they got ready for Pride Month, where they took the Lego forms and they just put the rainbow flags representing the gay flag, whatever. Right. It's really not the gay flag.
Yeah.
But anyway, they put this out in ahead of Pride Month. The problem was I was upset that they didn't go all the way. Yeah. Why didn't they make Legos that don't function, that don't work, that don't fit together? Because Legos
missing a leg or missing an arm.
Well, they're binary. So they fit together to form something. You can't have, if they really wanted to do it, they just have a pile of nothing there. Right. So they didn't go all the way. But the problem is that Legos reminds people that God's world is built a particular type of way.
Yeah. Right.
You can't escape it. In order for Legos to be a Lego, they have to fit together the way that they were designed.
Right.
Matter of fact, even in the story, the CNN story reported by the guy who created it, he says, we designed these Legos so that the creator, whoever's making these, can make them man or woman.
That's it?
That's That's what he said. It was he can't. They can't even
my
escape
best
it.
Tucker.
Reality, the reality is inescapable. You can't escape it. And so when you do something like this,
Right.
where you have a surgery, where you're trying to, what you've done is now reminded yourself even more so that you are not functioning the way that you were designed to function. Because
Right.
every pill you take, everything that you do,
Right.
every medicine you take, is going to remind you that you are not operating the way that God has designed you.
That's
And so
right.
this is the poopy water thing all over again.
Right.
Right. So let's just say for a second that there is a problem here. There's something going on that these people are having a problem with. And this is I think it's in the next clip or the one after that. There's a way to fix it, but the way the world fixes it,
Right.
apart from God's design,
Right.
creates more problems and makes the situation worse.
Right.
So
Right.
Well, this is what another way of saying what you're saying is this is why you need to have an objective truth in this world,
Right. A
because
blueprint.
there's times where I don't feel happy, or there's times where I don't, like our emotions are going to mislead us,
Right.
And our emotions could even contradict how we feel about our bodies,
Right. Sin itself is a kind of dysphoria.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fallenness.
That's
I mean,
right.
you have been disconnected. There is something wrong with the world.
Right.
And every person born into this world feels that dislocation.
Right.
There is a dysphoria. You don't feel at home. Why? Because you're not in fellowship with your maker.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
And that's exactly why Jesus came.
Right.
Jesus came, and I don't think it's unrelated to this at all.
No.
There is an inherently violent instinct
Right.
in the dysphoria.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
There's
That's
an
right.
like blood needs to be shed, and that's why
right.
these people are. I mean, there's not there's a spectrum here of cutting yourself.
Yes.
People cutting themselves.
Yes.
People getting piercings
Yep.
and tattoos.
Present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable. This
I know,
is a form of.
I hope I'm offending a whole bunch of people, but this whole thing, there's a pagan spectrum here, an instinct of I need to hurt, I need to bleed,
That's right.
I need to be cut.
I need to mar my body.
But the problem is none of those sacrifices take away your
That's
sin.
right.
None of those sacrifices put you right with your Maker.
Yeah.
But it is why Jesus was cut.
Well, none
it's
of those-
why Jesus was pierced. He had to bleed and die for our sins to make us right with God.
Well, they kind of none of those punishments deal with your sin.
No, because you're
sometimes they're even punishing their body by cutting themselves and so forth.
But you can't pay for your own sins.
That's right.
Because your body is already broken. Your body is already sinful, and you can't. It requires a perfect sacrifice.
Right.
This is why. So I was thinking about that. I was looking at Colossians chapter 3 verses 9, where it says, "Do not lie to one another."
Yeah.
First of all,
First
they're
of all,
lying to these
don't
people.
lie to
don't
one
lie
another.
to one another. Since you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man who is renewed in knowledge, according to the image of him who created him.
Yeah.
Right. So
To be saved, to be regenerate, to be born again is to have that image renewed, and now it's no longer dysphoric.
It's right.
Not everybody goes through this extreme,
Right.
but sin itself is insanity.
Right.
Sin itself is saying, if I grab, if I steal, if I get angry, if I blow up, if I curse, if I lie, then I can somehow remake the world.
That's right.
Such that my sin will make things better.
That's right.
But your sin never makes things better because you're not the maker.
So Billy goes on.
It took 7 years of many surgeries and of trying really hard to make that connect. After 7 years, I was falling back into that depression people were talking about, where transgendered people are before the transition. I hit that same thing 7 years later because I did everything the books, the therapists, the medical community told me I needed to do to find this happiness. I didn't find it. I found depression. I was very distraught. And at that time, I actually called out to God for help because I did everything that I could think about doing, medically, everything. And I was so distraught. Suicide was becoming an option again, but it wasn't an option. So I called out to God and asked for Him to help, and gave my life, gave all of me and my problems to Him. And He helped me. He helped me find my way back.
Boy, I hope the God he's talking about is Jesus.
Right.
Because that's the only way.
Right.
Otherwise, that's going to be
7 years.
7 years.
Wow.
7 years.
Right.
Of surgeries
Right.
after surgery, trying to, as he described it in the previous video, trying to make his mind connect better to his body.
Right. Right. But you can't only God can reconnect you. Only
right.
God
Right.
can make you whole, because He is the one who made you. But that means it's a restoring of the image.
being renewed.
Not trying to take the image and make it into something else, not trying to distort it or break it into something else.
You know, something that this points out too that people don't get, and I think it's because we have somewhat of a truncated gospel, but people need to be remade. Part of what he's, the groaning that's happening in him is he needed to be recreated.
Right. Yeah.
That desire.
And Christians can have all kinds of compassion and sympathy for that gaping hole in the human soul.
Yes.
Right. And when you've grown up in a world that has taught you that you're nothing, that we are just blobs of goo and chromosomes and genes that just got
chemicals
mixed together and you accidentally showed up and there's no up or down, no right or wrong, but nevertheless, God has put eternity in our hearts.
That's right. Yeah.
And every human being made in his image knows something's wrong here. Something's not connecting right. Preach. And Christians can say, you're absolutely right.
We know what's not connecting right.
We've fallen in Adam. We are sinners. We have been dislocated from our Maker, and therefore we're dislocated from ourselves and from those around us. And that's why Jesus came.
You know, one of the things that's bothering me right now, just to piggyback on what you're saying, because you hit on evolution a little bit, and it's really, really... Yeah. Right now, the fad of critical race theory, intersectionality, I'm not saying it's not a real problem. It's a problem. We got to deal with it, right? It's a problem.
Racism.
Sure. But it's a pimple. It's a pimple that people are rushing to. I just watched Texas, I think even our own state here in Idaho and Florida are passing laws against critical race theory. And I woke up to this, and and I'm watching people celebrating, very, very happy about this. And I'm saying to them, I'm like, okay, I get what they're doing. I know what they're after.
But we're still butchering babies.
But even underneath all of that, are you still teaching evolution in your government schools?
That's right.
For real.
Yeah.
Wait, do you even have government school? How is it that all of you guys can rush to critical race theory and tell me that we got to have a slow marching process to get this done, and then all of it out of nowhere, bam, hit it? I mean, the last 3 years, critical race theory has risen, and within 3 years, we have laws that we're passing that can't be taught in our public government schools. And
I don't know.
Yet evolution itself is like allowed to be taught, which is the godfather of all of this mess.
That's right.
I think we pass laws. I think Republicans pass laws when they know they're about to lose.
Or they want to be president. And this is like a fad right now.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm curious
what do you mean like they're going to lose?
True.
Well, because look, what did we do? Like, how many states passed defensive marriage laws?
You know, it's funny.
Like 30 some odd states said marriage between one man and one woman. And like what, 6 years later, 8 years later, they said no. And all the states were like, okay.
You know, it's funny you say, so I was
like,
just talking.
all the states laid down and they licked the boots of the Supreme Court.
That's right.
Which means that those acts that you passed in your states were crap.
That's right. But
and nothing.
So I was talking with Jason. So I did a little thing. It's called Introduction to the Ethics of Metaphysics with Jason.
You did a little thing?
I did a little thing. I'm probably going to try and do it every Monday.
Is it a podcast?
It's a conversation.
On the network?
On the network.
And the cross-politics?
And the cross-politics, yes. You got a little alert about this morning.
Hey.
But one of the things that's really interesting that came out of this conversation was Jason said conservatives pass laws when they've lost the battle in the culture.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm. And so
that's what I'm saying.
And he's like, so because they lost the battle in the culture, the last form, they just proved that everything was about power. Right.
Which is evolutionary.
Which is Darwinian. Which is why I think I think that's what's resonating with me, because I'm seeing it's like that's not the. And so,
I mean, I don't mind it as a tactical move. Sometimes, like it's like putting like duct tape on the dike.
Absolutely.
Like, there's like water spraying out, and you put the duct tape on, and then the Republicans are like, we did it. Right. No, you didn't. You did nothing.
That's right.
Now you have to win the culture.
Man, you preaching.
And that's excuse me. It's absolutely Darwinian.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why Darwinianism isn't the thing that we're going after, because we're operating in it.
Kill evolution, kill the government schools, kill evolution in the government schools, and then maybe we can talk.
Right. And it's important, kind of related to all this, that a lot of this stuff doesn't happen in a box. No. Like, this guy has a baggage to him on how we got to this moment.
What do you mean not in a box?
Well, here, play the clip, because I think that,
before I play the clip, Satan constantly presents himself as like a shining light.
Yeah, angel of light.
Lust present themselves as something that'll give you great satisfaction, right?
Right.
But in the end, it's death.
It'll take away your pain. It'll take away your loneliness.
And then it reduces you to a crust of bread.
Right.
So all our sin out there presents this in good light, but there's a history of why these things happen.
Going phrase that I hear is that we have to be sensitive and we have to give gender-affirming therapy. The therapist failed me because I didn't need gender affirming. I needed to dig down to the root of my problems that I had when I was a kid. As a kid, I had a speech impediment. I was really skinny. I had a learning disability. I really didn't fit in with the boys at all. So this thought that I had that God made a mistake, I was a girl, my conditions, everything around me was feeding into this thought and confirming it. So when I went through therapy, the therapist didn't ask, why didn't I feel secure, significant, or accepted as a kid? They proceeded to affirm that I had gender dysphoria because that's what I was telling them.
Wow.
All I heard was father hunger and all of that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there's so much to say about that. But the first thing I thought about was like, if you have a son who is looking at the other guys like, I don't add up to the other guys, I'm skinny. Hey, son, let's go on a hike.
Yeah.
You know what? There's actually food you can eat, buddy, that'll get you some muscles, and then you lift weights, and you know, hey, why don't bringing your son into you and showing him and modeling for him that renewed man that you found from Christ, right? Into your son and helping him be able to develop and say, oh, okay, I get it.
Right. And in the natural course of things, family is the place where we find our first identities as human beings, loved, accepted, and then in a church community, we're told, and then of course, all of this fundamentally comes down to knowing who you are in Christ.
Yeah.
But when all that breaks down, we are leaving gaping holes like this that are searching for extreme solutions.
That's right.
And
that
so,
don't work.
They don't work. But this goes all the way back. I mean, fatherlessness is exactly right. Divorce on demand is exactly right. Malachi says that God hates divorce because of the violence it does. Okay, this kind of violence. Okay, when you're ripping apart, you say, "Well, this will be better." No, I love how Pastor Doug says, "There's no problem so bad that you can't make it worse."
That's right. Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
Like there's,
that's right.
Yeah, I know there's some really difficult marriages. I know there's some really difficult relationships, but there's always the temptation to think, I just can't take this anymore. I need to break it. I need to get out of this, and that anything will be better than this. No, you don't understand. And things can get worse.
That's right.
And you can end up creating children that have these kinds of gaping holes. Don't know who they are, and then they go searching for a knife to try to fix them.
Well, and so a lot of the transitioning chemicals and medication that they give people in all this are off-label products. In other words, the medication was intended and designed to maybe treat one thing, and FDA approved it to treat this, and they're using it to treat transgenderism, to boost your hormones,
but we absolutely must not use hydroxychloroquine to help with COVID-19.
And that's what's happened with what's going on with the current vaccine.
Okay.
We had to redefine what the definition of a vaccine was back in October.
Right. It wasn't genetic. What do we call it? Genetic
mRNA
treatment or
genetic treatment.
Therapy, genetic therapy until a year ago when they changed the definition of vaccines.
Not even a year ago. October.
Okay.
And so now in Canada, they literally are allowing for minors to get vaccinated without parental consent and all this. Watch this.
Great.
And now you're letting children line up for a free ice cream.
Free ice cream.
Rise Up. We are at Nathan Phillips Square. We are at the pop-up vaccine clinic.
There's stuff going in those kids'
And
bodies.
the police have just told us that we are not allowed to be on the Nathan Phillips Square property. So we are out on the sidewalk now.
You're not doing your right by you.
We're trying to speak to the police.
I told you before.
So what has happened here is they have this pop-up vaccination tent, and then the cops have surrounded it to move parents away from it, and they're giving free ice cream to kids who want to get a vaccine. They're literally giving free ice cream away to kids who want a vaccine.
Pinocchio? Remember Pinocchio? Like they were.
Yeah.
This is
cigars.
Yeah. This is.
But make the connection here. There's kids who can walk into the school nurse's office and ask for hormonal treatment,
right?
Because they want to start transitioning without parental consent.
Nope.
There's a number of cases, one in Texas, one in another in Arizona, where the judge is allowing for the transition against one of the parents' wishes.
In North Minneapolis, the abortion Planned Parenthood had an office downstairs in the area where my wife went to. Public school in the high school there. Yeah. So. Yeah,
and the government here is now using this vaccine without parental consent. These kids can go get this genetic therapy vaccine treatment with free ice cream.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to drop names here, but I've walked through before the judicial precedent with a legal scholar who has demonstrated, I think, very conclusively. That a few decades ago, legal precedent has actually already sort of flopped, is already flipped, such that the government that believes it has a compelling interest to require something of our children now has legal precedent to do that.
Oh, yeah.
We are thankfully living in a country that is still happily inconsistent.
Yeah.
But in terms of determining what is best for kids, the legal precedent is there for any judge that wants to use it. To actually, even in our country, not in Canada, in America, to say basically the state has a compelling interest for these kids to be vaccinated, and we don't care what the parents
think. Or to transition.
All of it, right? Abortions, transitions, all of it. And this is what happens with statism.
CPS, Child Protective Services, right? Yeah. We have a whole organization designed just to do that, to usurp authority over parents. They're not doing what watching what CPS has done and the authority that they have should have made send our kids to government schools.
Right.
And the counselor saying, we're concerned about your child, and then they can put.
You can't send your kids to government schools and say, we're going to have you disciple our children into how to be human beings. And then suddenly, object when they say, and this is what real human beings need.
Like this, or this is what a human being is.
Or this is what a human being is. Exactly. No, this is where we are. We gave this over. We gave our kids to Caesar, and now Caesar says, this is how we're going to do kids.
Well, we got to stop believing mainstream media at all and everything they're telling us. Yeah. I mean, mainstream media believes a man can be a woman. Right. Fox News believes a man can be a woman. Yeah. Sean Hannity just had that interview with Bruce Jenner.
Right.
We need to reclaim the truth of of God's word in our lives and in this world.
Return to a God as creator of heaven and earth and all human beings, and Jesus Christ, his only son, the one who died to make us whole, to make us human beings again. That's the center of it.
That's a fixed truth.
And when that happens, families rise up, churches rise up, and now we have governments that push back against
that's what tyranny. See, people don't miss what he just said. We have governments. Which governments is he talking about? The government of the
family and the church. That's why you got to baptize your kids.
Get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them until Sunday. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Crust Politic.
The government, the states, they're Paedo-Baptist.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Remember that? Ben Merkel said that, right?
And post-mill. Yeah, they are.